Sophie was very hard-headed. She was spunky, energetic, and a huge party girl. If you told her she couldn't do something, she'd be 10x more likely to do it, and she'd do it looking you dead in the eyes. When she entered a room, you knew she was there. Now, she didn't have the biggest group of friends, but she was loyal to a fault and would do just about anything for anyone. She was amazing. This is why I'm so confused. Sophie died 3 weeks ago, and no one except me seems to remember. I'll give y'all some backstory. Sophie moved into my neighborhood about 4 years ago with her aunt, uncle, and sister. Her parents were kinda shitty, but I won't go into it since it's not my story to tell. We were in the 7th grade and she lived 3 houses down. Naturally, we quickly became friends. Me and her, Taylor and Sophie. We were inseparable. A dynamic duo, if you will. I will admit there were some bumps in the road here and there, but nothing we couldn't fix or get over. The years passed on and we remained the same. I was still quiet and she was still as rowdy as ever, but we rubbed off on each other. I have gotten severe depression, and ever since knowing her I've been able to relax a bit more around others and lie convincingly, but no one needs to know that. Her grades have been getting better and she's calmer than she used to be. We balanced each other out in a way. Everything was great. Then sophomore year of high school happened. We grew a bit distant at the start of the school year, but I thought nothing of it. After all, friends go through this all the time. We'll eventually grow closer again. Yeah, that's what I thought. Then she got a boyfriend. I couldn't give a rat's ass about who she dated, it's her life after all. I only started to worry when she started acting strange. She became more frantic, I guess. I can't really describe it. This isn't a bad thing. She's always smoked, she's always liked to drink, and this is in no way, shape or form a good thing for a 15-year-old, but it was her norm. I didn't question it. Maybe I should have. She was irritable. She lashed out over little things, like me not returning her sweetpence or refusing to give her homework answers when I could just help her through them. She started to abuse her sister, and I'm not one to just throw around the term abuse. Her younger sister was around 7 years old. I'd come over and see bruises on her wrists. Sophie would raise her hand to hit her, and she'd flinch so hard an earthquake could start. Sophie screamed at her day and night and thought nothing of it. This fucking sickened me. I grew up with my sister treating me the same way and I'm in therapy till this day. It was that bad. I wasn't gonna let that happen to her little sister. I started treating her better and standing up for her instead of being impartial, which pissed off Sophie a lot. She still didn't see the problem. This led to a huge argument. She kept insisting it was fine, that her sister deserved it for God's sake. I kept trying to tell her that no, it was not fine, and it would fucking scar her for life. That's when I confronted her about her other behavior. Skipping our plans to hang out with her boyfriend, being super flaky, her binge drinking and smoking, becoming an overall shitty human. She used to be fun and knew her limit. Now she was unhinged. That's the one way I can describe it. She went apeshit. She screamed about how I'm just jealous of him, how I have a stick up my ass, I'm no fun to be around, I'm always going to be alone if I kept acting like a lame, goody two-shoes version of her, and said I deserved to be verbally and physically abused by my older sister. If you couldn't tell by now, I was livid. You don't tell someone they deserve the abuse they went through. You never tell someone they deserve the abuse they went through. She should know this. This wasn't Sophie. I wasn't staring at Soph, this couldn't be her. I walked home afterwards. I wasn't dealing with any more of her shit. I don't have to put up with this. I told my mom in explicit detail about what happened and she was just as appalled. She texted me shortly after the whole spat, apologizing profusely and telling me to meet her at the elementary school a few minutes away. It was already dark out, but if she was this torn then I was willing to sneak out and meet her. It was cold out, as it should be in December. I was feeling uneasy about the whole situation. Taylor, this is a bad idea. Taylor, you should go home before mom and dad find out you're gone. What if it's a setup? No, Soph would never hurt me. She was sitting on the swings. Just swinging away without a care in the world. I called out to her. She turned and smiled at me, but something was wrong. She was tense and her eyes were a bit red. She wouldn't take her hands out of her pockets. Naturally, I was incredibly anxious as the whole situation was super sketchy. She asked me how I was feeling, if I was okay after the argument. I told her I was fine, I'm still a bit pissed, but I'll get over it. I kept looking at her pocket. She was holding something. She wanted to give me a hug. I said I was okay. She got more forceful, telling me to get over there until she was nearly screaming. I tried running. She was quicker. Before I knew it, she was on top of me, pinning me down to the wet concrete. A knife was pointed at my throat. I was on the verge of a panic attack, full fight or flight mode. She was rambling on and on about something. I think she said something about a tree? Red skies? I can't fully remember. My ears were ringing. She practically put her forehead to mine and told me everything would be okay. We would be okay afterwards. I wasn't gonna believe that shit for a goddamn second. I took advantage of the moment and headbutted her so hard I could have sworn I saw the sky crack. She screamed. I pushed her off of me as quickly as a disoriented, scrawny 15-year-old girl could. There was blood. On our foreheads, on her mouth, on the concrete. The knife had fallen out of her hand. I guess I had noticed first. Before either of us knew it, the knife was in my hand. It was also in her lower abdomen. She nearly fell to the ground, but I caught her. Sophie didn't die immediately, it took a while for her to succumb to the blood loss. I sobbed as she was bleeding out. She told me it was all right, that death was better than what was waiting for her if she lived. Her hand rubbed away my tears. She smiled, then she closed her eyes. She never opened them. I screamed and wailed and sobbed for what felt like hours. How could I do that to her? Why did I do that to her? I guess someone heard me mangling my vocal cords because I heard cop cars getting closer. I didn't know what to do, so I ran, leaving Sophie's body on the ground. They found me in the nearby woods nearly an hour later. My parents must have figured out I was gone. Mix that info with the obvious noise complaint, and it wasn't that difficult to guess who was causing it. They brought me in for questioning when they noticed the blood on my hands and how puffy my eyes were. At the station, I confessed to killing her. They were confused. Apparently, no body was found at the elementary school. No blood, no knife. No signs of another person ever being there, let alone getting killed. I told them to call her aunt and uncle. I gave them their phone number, but no one ever picked up. I told them to test the blood on my hands. They did. It was my own, which was a ridiculous idea, until I noticed the cuts on them. They let me go not long after. As I've said, this happened 3 weeks ago. Since then, I went to her house and knocked until my knuckles ached. Her aunt answered the door, but insisted she didn't know who I was or who Sophie was. Not even her sister remembered her or me. It's like all traces of our friendship dissolved. All traces of her existence, gone. I questioned her friends, but none of them knew who I was talking about. Her photo was removed from the school yearbook and all her class photos. Her Instagram and Snapchat were deleted. I tried calling her phone, but the voice on the other end kept telling me the line was busy. Even my parents don't remember me ever talking about her. I questioned her boyfriend last. He insisted he didn't know who I was talking about, but the guilt in his eyes tells me otherwise. He knows more than he's telling me. He remembers. I'm gonna figure out why.